Hello, my name is Liz Mance, and I'm delighted to introduce the boys who take confidence in communication classes and their autumn term recital. We do hope you enjoy it.
Night Sounds by Bernie Doherty. When I lie in bed, I think I can hear the stars being switched on. I think I can. And I think I can hear the moon breathing. But I have to be still, so still. All the house is sleeping except for me. Then I think I can hear it. Story time by Andrew Collect. When our teacher tells a story at the end of every day, we sit in silence as she takes us far away to places where wild lizards live in castles in the sky, to land where all children have wings so they can fly. We all sit in silence. We just sit and stare. For when our teacher tells a story, she makes us feel we were there.
Your School by Carol Ann Duffy. Your school knows the name of places: Dhaka, Rajshahi, Silket, Khulna, Chittagong, and where they are. Your school knows where rivers rise, the Ganges, Brahmaputra, Thames, and knows which seas they join. Your school knows the height of mountains disappearing into the cloud. Your school knows important dates, the days when history turned around to stare the human race straight in the face. Your school knows the poets' names long dead: John Keats, Rabindranath Tagore, Sylvia Plath, and what they said. It knows the paintings hanging in the old gold frames in huge museums, and how the artists lived and loved who dipped their brushes into vivid paint. Your school knows the language of the world: hello, namaskar, sat shri akal, assalamu alaikum, salut. It knows the homes of faith, the certainties of science, the living art of sport. Your school knows what Isaac Newton thought, what William Shakespeare wrote, and what Muhammad taught. Your school knows your name: Shirin, Abdul, Aisha, Rayan, Lauren, Jack. Your school knows the most important thing to know: you're a star. A star.
The Lion and the Echo by Brian Patton. The king of the beasts, deep in the wood, roared as loudly as it could. Right away the echo came back, and the lion thought itself under attack. What voice is it that roars like mine? The echo replied, mine. Who might you be? Asked the furious lion. I'm king of this jungle is mine. And the echo came back the second time. This jungle is mine, is mine, is mine. The lion swore revenge if only it could discover the intruder in the wood. It roared, coward, come out and show yourself. But the fearless echo replied simply, no. Come out, roared the lion, enough deceit. Do you fear for your own defeat? But all the echo did was repeat, defeat, defeat. Frightened by every conceivable sound, the exhausted lion sank to the ground. A bird in a tree looked down and it said, dear lion, I'm afraid that what you hear is simply the voice of the lion-sized fear. The Magic Cat by Peter Dixon. My mum was walking through the door, spilled some magic on the floor. Blobs of this and splots of that, but most of it upon the cat. Our cat turned magic straight away and in the garden went to play, where it grew to massive wings and flew around in fancy rings. Oh, look, cried Mother, pointing I didn't know our cat could fly. With a dash of Tibby's tail, she turned my mum into a snail. So now she lives beneath a stone and does around a different home. And Diamond Ann and Dad's the mouse and Tibby's living in our house. It's Raining Cats and Dogs by Steve Turner. It's raining cats and dogs, the sky is going dark. Instead of pitter-patter, it's splatter, yell and bark. Bulldogs bounce on bonnets, Alsatians hang in trees. Poodles land on policemen and bring them to their knees. Tabby cats come squealing like rockets overhead. Siamese look worried at the pavement turning red. It's raining cats and dogs, although it shouldn't oughta. Next time I pray for rain, I'll add I mean water.
The River Story by Brian Patton. I remember when life was so good. I shilly-shallied across meadows, tumbled down mountains. I laughed and gurgled through the mountains. Stretched and yawned in a myriad of floods. Insects, weightless as sunbeams, settled upon my skin to drink. I wore lily pads like medals. Fish, lazy and battle-scarred, gossiped beneath them. The damnflies were my ballerinas, the pike my ambassadors. Kingfishers disguised as rainbows were my secret agents. It was a sweet time, a gone time, a time before factories grew. Brick by greedy brick left me cowering in monstrous shadows. Like drunken giants, they vomited their poisons into me. Tonight, a scattering of vagrant bluebells, dwarfed by the same poisons, told my ending. Children, come and find me if you wish. I am your inheritance. Behind the derelict housing estates, you'll discover my remnants, clogged with garbage and junk, to an open sewer have shrunk. I who have flowed through history, who have seen hamlets become villages, villages become towns, towns become cities, and reduced to a trickle of filth beneath the still, burning stars.
The Veggie Lion by Spike Milligan. I'm a vegetarian lion. I've given up all meat. I've given up all roaring. All I do is go tweet, tweet. I never ever sink my claws in some animal's skin. It only lets the blood run out unless the germs rush in. I used to be ferocious. I even tried to kill. The sight of all that blood made me feel quite ill. I once attacked an elephant. I sprung straight at his head. I woke up 3 days later in a jungle hospital bed. Now I just eat carrots. They're easier to kill, because when I pounce upon them, they all remain quite still.
Forgiven by A. Milne. I found a little beetle, so that beetle was his name. And I called him Alexander, and he answered just the same. I put him in the matchbox, and I kept him all the day. And Nanny let my beetle out. Yes, Nanny let my beetle out. She went and let my beetle out. And Beetle ran away. She said that she didn't mean it, and I never said she did. She said she wanted matchbox, and she just took off the lid. She said that she was sorry, but it's difficult to catch. An excited sort of beetle you mistaken for a match. She said that she was sorry, and I really mustn't mind. And there's lots and lots of beetles, which she's certain we could find. If we looked about the garden for the holes where beetles hid, and we get another matchbox and write beetle on the lid. We went to all the places which a beetle might be near, and we made the sort of noises which a beetle likes to hear. And I saw a kind of something, and I gave a sort of shout. A beetle nouse, and Alexander Beetle coming out. It was Alexander Beetle, I'm as certain can be. And he had a sort of look as he thought it must be me. And he had a sort of look as he thought he ought to say, I'm very, very sorry that I tried to run away. And Nanny's very sorry too, for you know what she did. And she's writing Alexander very blackly on the lid. So Nanny and me are friends, because it's difficult to catch. An excited Alexander you mistaken for a match.
About the Teeth of Sharks by John Ciardi. The thing about shark is teeth. One row above, one row beneath. Now take a close look. Do you find it has another row behind? close here. I'll hold your hat. It had a 5 row behind that. Now look in and look out! Oh my, I'll never know now. Well, goodbye.
By John CIC.
Winter by Judith Nichols. Winter crept through the whispering wood, hushing fir and oak, crushed each leaf and froze each web, but never a word he spoke. Winter prowled by the shivering sea, lifting sand and stone, nipped each limpet silently, and then moved on. Winter raced down the frozen stream, catching at his breath. On his lips were icicles, at his back was death.
To Beat Bad Tempo by Cynthia Mitchell. An angry tiger in a cage will roar and roar and roar with rage, and gnash his teeth and lash his tail, for that's how tigers rant and rail. I keep my temper in a cage. I hate it when it roars with rage. I hate its teeth, I hate its tail. So when it starts to rant and rail, I tell my mum, I tell my dad, I tell them why it's feeling bad. And then I skip and skip and skip, and lash my rope just like a whip. And then I skip because I'm cross. My temper tiger knows who's boss. And when I've skipped and whipped like mad, my temper tiger not so bad. I have to keep it tame this way, or else it'll eat me up one day.
Everyone sang by Siegfried Sassoon. Everyone suddenly burst out singing, and I was filled with such delight, as prison birds must find in freedom, winging wildly across the white orchards and dark green fields, on, and out of sight. Everyone's voice was suddenly lifted, and beauty came like the setting sun. My heart was shaken with tears, and horror drifted away. Oh, but everyone was a bird, and the song was wordless. The singing will never be done.
All the World's a Stage, from As You Like It by William Shakespeare. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his act being 7 ages. At first the infant mewling and puking in the nurse's arms, and then the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like a snail unwillingly to school. And then the lover, sighing like furnace with a woeful ballad made to his mistress's eyebrow. And then a soldier full of strange oaths and bearded like the pard, jealous in on a sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking bubble reputation even in the cannon's mouth. And then the justice, in fair round belly with good cap and lind, and with eye severe and beard of formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances, and so he plays his part. The 6th age shifts into the lean, slippered pantaloon, with spectacles on nose and pouch on side. His youthful hose well salved, and well too wide for his shrunk shank, and his big manly voice turning again toward childish treble pipes and whistles in his sound. And last scene of all that ends this strange, eventful history is second childishness and mere oblivion. Saw teeth, saw eyes, saw taste, saw everything.
The Way Through the Woods by Rudyard Kipling. They shut the road through the woods 70 years ago. Weather and rain have undone it again, and now you would never know there was once a road through the woods. Before they planted the trees, it is under the coppice and heath, and the thin anemones. Only the keeper sees that where the ringdove broods and the badgers roll at ease, there was once a road through the woods. Yet if you enter the woods of a summer evening late, where the night air calls on the trout-ringed pools, and the otter whistles his mate, they fear not men in the woods, because they see so few. You will hear the beat of a horse's feet and the swish of a skirt in the dew, steadily cantering through the misty solitudes, as though they perfectly knew the old lost road through the woods. But there is no road through the woods.
100 Trials by John Betjeman. It's awfully bad luck on Diana. The ponies have swallowed their bits. She fished on their throats with a spanner and frightened them all into fits. I say, mate, there's Mrs. Geyser. Doesn't she look pretty sick? bet it's because Mona Lisa was hit on the hook with a brick. Miss Blewett says Monica threw it. Monica says it was Joan. And Joan's very thick with Miss Blewett. So Monica's sucking along. Oh, it's me now! I'm terribly nervous. I wonder if Smudges will shy. She's practically certain to swear that her pelham is over one eye. Oh, wasn't it naughty of Smudges? Oh, Mummy, I'm sick with disgust. She threw me in front of the judges. And my silly old collarbones bust.
The Inquisitive Child, author unknown. Why are they selling poppies, Mummy? Selling poppies in town today? The poppies, my child, are flowers of love for the men who marched away. But why have they chosen a poppy, Mummy? Why not a beautiful rose? Because, my child, men fought and died in the fields where the poppies grow. But why are the poppies so red, Mummy? Why are the poppies so red? Red is the colour of blood, my child, the blood that our soldiers shed. The heart of the poppy is black, Mummy. Why does it have to be black? Black, my child, is the symbol of grief for the men who never came back. But why, Mummy, are you crying so? Your tears are giving you pain. My tears are my fears for you, my child, for the world is forgetting again.
Newsflash by Valerie Bloom. And now, in news that's just come in, a fascinating story that life exists outside the books. This has caused quite a furore. Rumour has it that TV is not all that it seems, not the centre of the universe, nor the answer to man's dreams. An eyewitness is able to verify that Miss Jones from Oldham, when she sits down to eat with her family, will not have the television on. This reporter has found people who actually speak to one another, not just in grunts to ask for food. They converse, hear this for pleasure. Unlike us, they do not depend on TV for recreation. Amazingly, they don't even spend much time at a PlayStation. They masquerade as normal folk, but one can see through their disguise. It said they have no dark circles or bags beneath their eyes. We apologise if you find this distressing, but we thought it only right to bring this outrage to the public's notice. Stand by for weather. Good night.
Purple Shoes by Irene Rawnsley. Mum and me had a row yesterday. A big exploding, how dare you speak to me like that, I'm off to stay at Gran's kind of row. It was about shoes. I'd seen a pair of purple ones at Carter's. Heels not too high, soft suede, silver buckles. No, she said, not suitable for school. I can't afford to buy rubbish. That's when we had our row. I went to bed longing for those shoes. They made footsteps in my mind, kicking up dance dust. I wore them in my dreams across a shiny floor, under flashing coloured lights. It was ruining my life not to have them. This morning they were mine. Mum relented and gave me the money. I walked out of the store wearing new purple shoes. I kept seeing myself reflected in shop windows with purple shoes on, walking to the bus stop, walking the whole length of our street wearing purple shoes. On Monday, I shall go to school in purple shoes. Mum will say no 1,000 furious times, but I don't care. I'm not going to give in.
The Little Ghost Song by Brian Patton. I like to be a human again. I like to get wet and rain. I wouldn't mind toothache, just for living's sake. I like to get born on my foot, not to go through it all. What's the point of being a ghost? Can't eat jam toast.
Snow Petrels by Liz Brownlee. On skies and seas veiled white with light, snow petrels weave and wheel in flight. They glide and skim from high to low, a falling flock of feathered snow. In courtship chases, pair by pair, they braid their paths of freezing air. Birds of Antarctic paradise, the cliffs, the sea, the snow, the ice.
The Mower by Philip Larkin. The mower stalled. Twice. Kneeling, I found a hedgehog, jammed up against the blades. Killed. It had been in the long grass.
I'd seen it before, and even fed it once. Now I'd mauled its unobtrusive world unmendably. Burial was no help. The next morning I got up, and it did not. The first day after death, the new absence is always the same. We should be careful of each other. We should be kind while there is still time.
Lizard by Moira Andrew. A flash of green, a flicker of light, a gleam of gold glittering just out of sight, a heat-hazed wall, a wreath of vine, a glint of eye blinking in the bright sunshine, a zap of speed, a glimmer of jade, a hint of movement diving deep into shade.
An Anthem for Doomed Youth by Wilfred Owen. What passing bells for these who dare scatter? Only the monstrous anger of the guns, only the stuttering rifle's rapid rattle can patter out the hasty orisons. No mockeries now for them, no prayers nor bells, nor any voice of mourning save the choirs, the shrill demented choirs of wailing shells, and bugles calling for them from sad shires. What candles may be held to speed them all? Not in the hands of boys, but in the eyes shall shine the holy glimmers of goodbyes. The pallor of girls' brows shall be their pall, their flowers the tenderness of patient minds, and each through dusk a drawing down of blinds.
Babies Are Boring by Peter Mortimer. Babies are boring. Oh yes, they are. Don't believe mothers or a doting papa. Babies are boring. Their hands in their bellies, their pink puffy faces which wobble like jellies. Accountants and grandmas and sailors from Chile, when faced with a baby, act extraordinarily silly. They grimace and they giggle, say diddle-dum-do. They waggle their fingers, stick their tongues out too. They slaver and slurp, and they tickle its tummy. They gurgle and drool. Oh, he's just like his mummy. Oh, his mouth is like Herbert's. He's got Uncle Red's nose. My word, he looks healthy. It's his feet, I suppose. Save me from boldness and the old smell of kippers, but most of all, save me from all gooey nippers. I'm a brute, I'm a fiend, but there's no use to implore me to tickle its chin, because all babies bore me.
My Brother Bird by Ted Hughes. Pets are the hobby of my brother Bird. He used to go to school with a mouse in his shirt. His hobby grew, as some hobbies will, and grew, and grew, and grew, until... Oh, don't breathe a word. Pretend you haven't heard. Some appalling thing has occurred. The very thought makes me iller and iller. Bert's brought home a gigantic gorilla! If you think that's really not such a scare, what if it quarrels with his grizzly bear? You still think you can keep your head? What if the lion from under the bed and the aardvarks out of his bottom drawer all danced out and joined the roar? The wombat, the dingo, the gecko, the grampus, how they would shake their house with their rampus. It's what it could be a dreadful day. And oh, what would the neighbors say?
The Pig by Roald Dahl. In England once there lived a big and awfully clever pig. To everybody it was plain that piggy had a massive brain. He worked out sums inside his head. There wasn't a book he hadn't read. He knew what made an airplane fly. He knew how engines worked and why. He knew all this, but in the end, one question drove him around the bend. He simply couldn't puzzle out what life really was all about. What was the reason for his birth? Why was he placed upon the earth? His giant brain went round and round. Alas, no answer could be found. Till one wondrous night, in all a flash, he saw the light. He jumped up like a ballet dancer and yelled, "By gum, I've got the answer! They want my bacon slice by slice to sell at a tremendous price. They want my tender juicy chops to put in all the butcher shops. They want my pork to make a roast, and that part will cost the most. They want my sausages up in string. They'll even want my chiselings, the butcher shop, the carving knife. That is the reason for my life." Such thoughts as these are not designed to give a pig a great peace of mind. The next morning, in comes Farmer Bland. A pail of pig's will in his hand, and Piggy, with a mighty roar, bashes the farmer to the floor. Now, here comes the rather grisly bit, so let's not make too much of it. But you must understand that Piggy did eat Farmer Bland. He ate him from head to toe, chewing the pieces nice and slow. It took an hour to reach the feet, because there was so much to eat. And when he had finished, Pig, of course, felt absolutely no remorse. Slowly he scratched his brainy head, and with a little smile he said, I had a fairly powerful hunch that he might have had me for his lunch, and because I feared the worst, I thought I'd better eat him first.
Two little kittens, anonymous. Two little kittens, one stormy night, began to quarrel and then to fight. One had a mouse, and the other had none, and that's the way the quarrel begun. I will have that mouse, said the biggest one. You'll have that mouse? We'll see about that. I shall have that mouse, said the eldest son. You shan't have the mouse, said the little one. I told you before, 'twas a stormy night, when the two little kittens began to fight. The old woman seized a sweeping broom and swept the two little kittens right out of the room. The ground was covered with frost and snow, and the two little kittens had nowhere to go. So they laid them down at the mat at the door, while the old woman finished sweeping the floor. Then they crept in, quiet as mice, all wet with the snow and cold as ice. For they found it was better, that stormy night, to lay down and sleep than to quarrel and fight.
From a Distance by Lindsay Gray. I climbed to the top of the world today, and the world looked really small. Guns and bombs and orphans' tears couldn't be heard at all. It all looked bright and beautiful, like a cheerful Christian hymn, with enough green fields and shady woods to put all the people in. I couldn't see any fences, or signs which read keep out, nor churned up earth where tanks rolled through to the enemy's victory shout. I couldn't see the eyes of a child who had no tears left to cry, nor numb refugees at the side of a road, watch the flames from their homes like the sky. I couldn't see the generals' smiles as they met to divide up the land, or hear the lies they told afterwards, with blood still warm on their hands. I couldn't feel the sigh that leaks from a million broken hearts, or the thick and sickening silence before the next war starts. I climbed to the top of the world today, and dreamed how the future could be. The rivers unsullied by hatred and greed, and peace stretching clear to the sea.
All for an ice cream by Karen Jackson. Mom, can I have an ice cream? Go ask your dad. Dad, can I have an ice cream? Go ask your mom. But I've just asked her and she told me to ask you. Well, tell her that I've told you to ask her. Mom, Dad's just told me to tell you that you've got to tell me if I can have an ice. Oh, well, I suppose you can, but go ask your dad for 10p. Right, Dad, can I have 10p for an ice cream? I haven't got 10p. Oh, come on, Dad, you haven't even looked yet. And oh, hurry, the van will leave soon. Let's have a look then. Ah, there you are. Thanks, Dad. Oh, what's the matter now? The van's gone. By Karen Jackson.
Louder by Roger Stevens. Off you go, Andrew, nice and clearly. Welcome everybody to the concert. Louder, Andrew. Mums and dads won't hear you all the way at the back, will they? Welcome everybody to our school concert. For goodness sake, Andrew, you are not trying. Project your voice. Take up a breath and louder. Welcome everybody to our school concert. For goodness sake, Andrew, you're not trying. Louder, louder. Welcome everybody to our school concert. Well, Andrew, there's no need to be silly, Andrew.
Greedy Dog by James Hurley. This dog will eat anything. Apple cores and bacon fat.
milk you poured out for the cat. He likes the string that ties the roast and relishes hot buttered toast. Hide your chocolates, he's a thief, he'll even eat your handkerchief. And if you don't like sudden shocks, carefully conceal your sock. Leave some soup without a lid, and you'll wish you never did. When you think he must be full, you'll find him gobbling bits of wool, orange peel or paper bags, dusters and old cleaning rags. This dog will eat anything, except for mushrooms and cucumber. Now what is wrong with those, I wonder?
The Visitor by Ian Serralia. A crumbling churchyard, the sea and the moon, the waves are gouged without grave and bone. A man was walking late and alone. He saw a skeleton on the ground, a ring on a bony finger he found. He ran home to his wife and gave her the ring. "Oh, where did you get it?" He said, "Not a thing. It's the loveliest ring in the world," he said, as it glowed on her finger. They slipped off to bed. At midnight they woke in the dark outside. "Give me my ring!" a chill voice cried. "What was that, William? What did it say?" "Don't worry, my dear. Soon go away." "I'm coming." The cousin opened the door. "Give me my ring!" It was crossing the floor. "What was that, William? What did it say?" "Don't worry, my dear. I'll soon go away." "I'm reaching it now. I'm climbing the bed." Life pulled the sheet right over her head. It was torn from the grass and tossed in the air. "I'll drag her out of bed by the hair." "What was that, William? What did it say?" "Throw the ring through the window. Throw it away." She threw it. A skeleton leapt from the still, scooped up the ring, and clattered downhill, fainter and fainter. Then all was still.
Summing up by Nigel Gray. A poet came to our school to earn his daily bread. A real-life poet with words in his head. He told us to write a poem before that lunchtime bell. We said that we would if he would as well. Some of ours were rather good, but his face was rather red because he couldn't do one. His words were prisoners in his head. He said he hadn't been inspired. That's just like me with sums. I shouldn't stare at numbers, but inspiration never comes. The T-Rex by Hamish Yeoman. The T-Rex is big. The T-Rex is ginormous. The T-Rex is kind. The T-Rex is hungry.
The Hero by Siegfried Sassoon. Jack felt as he'd have wished, the mother said, and folded up the letter that she'd read. The Colonel writes so nicely. Something broke in the tired voice that quivered to a choke. She half looked up. We mothers are so proud of our dead soldiers. Then her face was bowed. Quietly, the brother officer went out. He told the poor old dear some gallant lies, that she would nourish all her days, no doubt. For a while he coughed and mumbled, her weak eyes had shone with gentle triumph, brimmed with joy, because he'd been so brave, her glorious boy. He thought how Jack, cold-footed, useless swine, had panicked down the trench that night the mine went up at Wicked Corner, how he tried to get sent home, and how at last he died, blown to small bits, and no one seemed to care except that lonely woman with white hair.
The dark wood, all for unknown. In the dark, dark wood, there was a dark, dark house. And in that dark, dark house, there was a dark, dark room. And in that dark, dark room, there was a dark, dark cupboard. And in that dark, dark cupboard, there was a dark, dark shelf. And in that dark, dark shelf, on that dark, dark shelf, there was a dark, dark box, and in that dark, dark box there was a ghost!
Auntie Joan by John Foster.
When Auntie Joan became a phone, she sat there, not saying a thing. The doctor said, shaking his head, "You'll just have to give her a ring." We had a try, but got no reply. The tone was always engaged. "She's just being silly," said Uncle Billy, slamming down the receiver, enraged. "Alas, I fear," said the engineer, who was called in to inspect her. "I've got no choice. She's lost her voice. I shall have to disconnect her." The phone gave a ring. "You'll do no such thing," said Auntie's voice on the line. "I like being a phone. Leave me alone, or else I'll dial 999.
View by David Harmer. Something outside our tent, a slithering, snuffling noise. I don't know what it is, but I know that it eats boys. Something outside our tent. I bet it's big and hairy, with jumping jaws and bulging eyes, looking very scary. Something's outside our tent. It's grunting and it's near. Sounds like it could freeze my blood. Keep it out of here. Something's outside our tent. I hope it's gone by morning. Wait a tick. It's next door's tent. It's settling down and snoring.
Maths My Way by Carol Diggory Shields. 2 plus 2 makes 22. It's plain as day that this is true. But teachers say she's very sure that 2 plus 2 adds up to 4. 3 plus 3 makes 33. That's the way it ought to be. But teacher says the answer is 6. I don't know why. Must be a trick. 4 plus 4 is 44. Not any less, not any more. My teacher just can't get it straight. She keeps on saying the answer's 8. I'll give up. I'll go along. I'll do it her way, though she's wrong. But in my heart, I know what's true. 2 plus 2 makes 22.
Stop All the Clocks by W.H. Auden. Stop all the clocks. Cut off the telephone. Prevent the dog from barking with a juicy bone. Silence the pianos, and with muffled drum, bring out the coffin, let the mourners come. Let aeroplanes circle, moaning overhead, scribbling on the sky the message, he is dead. Put crepe bows round the white necks of the public doves. Let traffic policemen wear black cotton gloves. He was my north, my south, my east and west, my working week, my Sunday rest, my noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. Thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. The stars are not wanted now, put out every one. Pack up the moon and dismantle the sun. Pour away the ocean, sweep up the wood. For nothing now can ever come to any good.
Someone by Walter de la Mare. Someone came knocking at my wee small door. Someone came knocking, I'm sure. I listened, I opened, I looked left and right, but not there was a stirring in the still dark night. Only the buzzy beetles tapping in the wall. Only from the forest the screech owls call. Only the cricket whistling while the dewdrops fall. So I know not who came knocking at all.
The Silver Fish by Shel Silverstein. While fishing in the blue lagoon, I caught a lovely silver fish, and he spoke to me. "My boy," quoth he, "please set me free, and I shall grant your wish. A kingdom of wisdom, a palace of gold, all the fancies your mind can hold." And I said, "Okay," and I set him free. But he laughed at me as he swam away, and left me whispering my wish into a silent sea. Today I caught that fish again, that lovely silver prince of fishes, and once again he offered me, if only I would set him free, any one out of a number of wishes, if only I were thrown back to the fishes. He was delicious.
Finding Out About the Family by Richard Edwards. It was really rather scary when my dear old Auntie Mary started going very hairy when the moon was full and bright, and went outside on the prowl with a loud and eerie howl, like a wild wolf on the hilltop in the middle of the night. It was really rather odd when I found my Uncle Todd dangling from a wooden rod where a curtain usually hangs. He was upside down in black,
with his hair slicked thinly back and the firelight flickering fiercely on the sharp tips of his fangs. It was most bizarre of all, when my little brother Paul disappeared into the wall with a puff of purple smoke. Then my sister waved her wand, and now I'm living in the pond, eating flies and feeding slowly. Ribbit, ribbit, croak, croak, croak.
The Song of Mr. Toad by Kenneth Graham. The world has held great heroes, as history books have showed, but never a name to go down to fame compared with that of Toad. The clever men at Oxford know all there is to be known, but they none of them know one half as much as intelligent Mr. Toad. The animals sat in the yard and cried, their tears in torrents flowed. It was said, there's land ahead, encouraging Mr. Toad. The army all saluted as they marched along the road. Was it the king or Kitchener? No, it was Mr. Toad. The queen and her ladies in waiting sat in the window and sewed. She cried, look, who's that handsome man? They answered, Mr. Toad.
Limpet by Chrissy Gittins. I am a Cornish limpet, been here for 100 years, sucking and gripping and sticking to the stone with 100,000 fears. What if I get put in a bucket or dumped in the boot of a car, with wellies and jellies and a windbreaker and a shell in the shape of a star? I'd miss my chance with the ancient crab, the swell and wash of the tide, the soothing stroke of anemones, the storms when the fish come and hide. But I hang on tight and hope for the best. I avoid anyone with a spade. When the sun beats down on a glisten on the sea, my fears begin to fade.
Rooty Tooty by Carol Ann Duffy. Grandad used to be a pop star with a red and silver guitar. He wore leather jackets and drainpipe jeans, and he drove around in limousines, waving to screaming fans. Fab, said Grandad, groovy! I really dig it, man. Grandad used to have real hips. He swiveled and he did the twist. His record went to #1, and Grandad went like this. Rooty Tooty, yeah, yeah! Rooty Tooty, yeah, yeah, yeah! Rooty Tooty, yeah, yeah! Then Grandad met Gran. Gran was dancing under a glitter ball. Grandad was on bass. He noticed how 1,000 stars sparkled and shone in her face. Although Gran fancied the drummer, Grandad persevered, and he wrote Gran 100 love songs down through the happy years. Grandad used to be a pop star, a rock and roll man. Rooty Tooty, yeah, yeah, yeah! And Grandad loved groovy Gran.
Geography Lesson by Brian Patton. Our teacher told us one day he would leave and sail across a warm blue sea to places he had only known from maps and his whole life had longed to be. His house was narrow and grey, but in his mind's eye he could see sweet-scented jasmine cling to the walls and green leaves burning on an orange tree. He spoke of the lands he wanted to visit, but it was never drab or cold. I couldn't understand why he never left and shook off the school stranglehold. Then, halfway through the final term, he took ill and never returned. He never got to the place on the map where the green leaves of the orange tree burned. The maps were redrawn on the classroom wall. His name forgotten, he faded away. But a lesson he never knew he taught is with me to this day. I travelled to where the green leaves burn, to where the ocean glass clear and blue, to places which he never knew.